Imagine you are an author and you are a best-selling author of your time, and you are being told that your books are not allowed to be read or to be even put in libraries. That would probably make you pretty upset because you've spent hours and hours and hours really putting work into this work of art almost, and nobody's allowed to read it. I mean, as an American citizen, you're given the right to free speech, which I believe, if you're given the right to free speech, you should be allowed to give it to the public, and they should be allowed to read it. So, technically, the right to free speech isn't really free speech because people are limiting the fact who can read it and who can listen to it. And that's just not okay. In schools, and in other places too, which I'll tell you about later, you have students that are sitting at desks for 8 hours a day, learning math, reading, social studies, all these things. And they're being told, oh, you can't read this, oh, you can't do this. That's really not okay, because these children are doing what the government says they're supposed to do by sitting in their desk and learning, but what they're allowed to learn is being limited. For example, in my 10th grade English class, we read a book called Caffer Boy, and in that book, there was a rape scene. And while we as the students in the class were given the choice of, hey, you could have this book that has those pages ripped out or blacked out, or you could have the book fully as it's written. And I chose fully as it is written, because what is the point of reading a book if you can't read all of it? That's a crucial part of the story, and you're not going to get the same effect as not reading that. And you have parents are the big ones that are restricting what their child reads. They believe that if they can't read about sex, drugs, violence, cursing, then they're not going to be able to participate in these activities, which is entirely untrue. Because of kids, I'm 20. I've recently been in high school, in middle school, and elementary school. I remember these things. If somebody tells me I can't do something, I'm going to want to do it even more. And probably many of you are the same way. So telling me I can't read about sex, I'm probably going to go out and find a way to learn about it. Maybe not actively participate in it, but I will find a way to learn more about it, because you can't tell me what I can or can't do. That's the teenage mentality right there. And parents are making these ridiculous claims like, oh, if children read classics, they're less likely to get pregnant. Where are you getting that information? I am 99% sure that no studies have been done on that. And also, if you're saying children together, that means female and male, and males cannot get pregnant. So you're right in a way, but you're also really wrong in a way, sort of, if that makes sense. It's just, okay. So schools aren't the only ones that are censoring what a child can read. You have Amazon, actually, an author that I am well acquainted with, received the following email from Amazon, who is the world's largest retailer in ebooks. Hello, we're contacting you regarding the following books that you submitted for sale in our Kindle store. During our review process, we found that your book's content is in violation of our content guidelines. As a result, we will not be offering this book for sale. If additional submissions are identified with similar content that violates our guidelines, your account may be terminated, or you may lose access to optional KDP services. Now, as I read that email, you probably thought they did not give her anything specifically that was wrong with her book. And that's what Amazon does. I know many authors that have self-published on Amazon, that get these emails and they're told, hey, there's something wrong with your book. Well, they reply, say, hey, can you tell me what's wrong so I can fix it and republish it? And they're just given runaround answers. And to think that censoring, you would think should just be a school thing because they're children and you really want to protect children. No, it's spreading. It's spreading to Amazon. Like I said, it's the world's largest retailer in ebooks, and they believe that because one person didn't like, if they read the sample of the book and they didn't like it, so they reported it so nobody else can read it. That's what's going on, not just in Amazon, but in schools. Really, a parent reads this and say, oh, I don't like this. I don't want my children to read it or my child to read it. And they say, go to the school, hey, I didn't like this. I don't think my child should read it. So the school board says, okay, well, let's take that complaint seriously. Take it off the shelves of our library. Don't let the kids read it. And not only does it affect that one child from that parent, but it affects everybody. Censoring, it just really limits a child. These things that are written, Mark Twain and the Adventures of Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn, these things that he wrote about using the N-word every couple sentences, that was okay for their time period. And why it may not be okay now doesn't mean that the child can't read it. It's just a word. I know it has negative connotations, but it's just a word. And I don't know why you have to censor one word. And, well, maybe not one word because it occurs many times, but it's insane, really. And then you have Harry Potter, and while it may not be in schools, people are like, oh, it's witchcraft, excuse me. I don't want my kid participating in that. These stories are worldwide bestsellers, and they just help a child's imagination grow, and a child needs their imagination. Because without imagination, the world would be a dull, dull place. And really just taking out parts of these books so children can't read them is doing nothing more than hurting them. And while I don't like censoring, I think that really the best solution for this would to make selections for children's reading assignments age appropriate. Probably nobody in elementary school should read about sex or rape or violence. So don't place those in the library and put those in the middle school library or in the high school library. And while that is also selection, which is a form of censorship, you also have to keep in mind what can the child handle. And while a child is the only one that truly knows what they can handle, you also have to think, they're 10 years old. They shouldn't be learning about sex or about violence. But overall, we need to stop the censoring. We need to stop, choosing what a child can read, because they know what they can handle, and if they can't handle it, then they know and they'll put it back. But overall, censoring is not a good thing, and we should let the child choose what they should read.